Ready to dive into something pretty fascinating. We're tackling Sweden's LSS today.
The Act Concerning Support and Service for Persons with Certain Functional Impairments.
Quite a mouthful, right?
Yeah.
But it's a law with a really cool purpose.
Yeah.
Ensuring a good life for folks with significant disabilities.
Exactly.
But here's the thing, it's not about charity or handouts.
Not at all.
The LSS is all about rights and empowering people.
Empowering them to live life the way they want to.
Love that. Okay, so first off, who exactly benefits from this whole system?
Well, the LSS zeroes in on three main groups. You've got individuals with developmental disabilities.
Like autism, for example.
Exactly. Autism is a prime example. Then you have people who've experienced significant and lasting cognitive issues.
From things like brain injuries.
Yes, specifically in adulthood. And we're talking about brain injuries stemming from violence or physical illness.
Got it. So not just any old brain injury.
Right. The cause matters. And the third category is a bit broader.
Okay, so?
It includes anyone with other lasting physical or mental disabilities.
I see. So it's not just about having a disability. It's about how much it impacts your life.
You hit the nail on the head. The LSS recognizes that these types of disabilities can create huge challenges.
Leading to a real need for support.
Precisely. And that's where those 10 unique rights granted by the LSS come in.
10 rights. Whoa, that's a lot. What's the first one all about?
The very first one is the right to advice and other personal support.
So having access to experts who really get it.
Yes, professionals who understand the ins and outs of living with these specific disabilities.
So like counselors, therapists, even dietitians.
You got it. A whole team of specialists.
Providing a safety net of sorts.
In a way, it's about giving that extra layer of support to complement existing services.
Like rehab or general social service.
Exactly. Right? Filling those gaps with personalized assistance. So the second right, this is where the LSS gets really interesting.
Okay, lay it on me.
It's the right to personal assistance. Now imagine needing help with everyday stuff.
Things we often take for granted.
Yeah, like getting dressed, making meals, or even just communicating.
Those can be huge hurdles for some.
Absolutely. And the LSS acknowledges that instead of a cookie-cutter approach, they put the power in the individual's hands.
Wait, so you're saying you get to choose who helps you with these personal things?
You got it. You pick your own assistants, people you trust and feel comfortable with.
That's huge. When you're relying on others for help, that sense of control must be so important.
It's all about maintaining dignity and autonomy. Plus, personal assistance goes beyond just the essentials.
What do you mean?
Well, it also covers things like hobbies and social activities.
So it's about helping people actually live their lives, not just exist.
You got it. The LSS recognizes that everyone has aspirations and needs that go beyond just surviving.
It's about thriving, not just getting by. That's fantastic. But what about those who don't need such intensive support?
Good question. The LSS has something for them, too. It's the third right companion service.
So for individuals who don't need full-on assistance, but could still use a helping hand sometimes.
Exactly. They might not need help with daily tasks, but could benefit from support with social activities or just combating loneliness.
So like a friend who can also help navigate those everyday challenges.
Precisely. Sometimes this support comes from a family, which is called support family.
Oh, that's sweet. It really shows how much the LSS values those social connections.
It recognizes that everyone needs that sense of belonging.
Now, what about support within the home itself? Does the LSS address that?
Absolutely. The fifth right is all about that. It's replacement service in the home, which some might know as respite care.
Respite care, I've heard of that. It's designed to give family members a break, right?
Exactly. Caring for someone with a disability can be demanding both physically and emotionally.
Having those breaks must be a lifesaver.
It helps prevent burnout. And it's super flexible, too. It can be used for planned breaks or unexpected situations 24/7.
Talk about peace of mind for families.
Wow.
Okay, we're halfway through the 10 rights. What's next?
The sixth one is short-term stays outside the home.
Like a vacation.
Sort of. It could be anything from a short stay in a residential home to a visit to a camp or a cottage.
Sounds like a nice change of scenery.
It is, and it provides another opportunity for caregivers to recharge.
Makes sense. A win-win for everyone involved. What about the seventh right?
This one is specifically for school students over the age of 12.
Okay, teenagers.
It's called short-term supervision for school children, and it basically ensures they have proper care and supervision outside of school.
So before and after school, during breaks.
Exactly. It creates a more seamless support system.
Makes sense. So what's number 8 all about?
Right, number 8. This one focuses on children and young people who, for whatever reason, can't live with their parents.
A sensitive topic.
It is. It's the right to live in a family home or in housing with special service for children or young people.
So providing a safe haven when needed.
Exactly. The goal is to create a supportive environment when a child can't be with their biological family.
What are the options in those cases?
Well, they could live with another family, like a foster family, or in a specialized housing setting designed for children and young people.
Like a group home.
Yeah, or a facility with specialized care. The LSS really emphasizes maintaining connections with the child's family whenever possible.
That's heartwarming.
Right.
Okay, so we've covered support for kids and teens. What about adults?
The ninth right tackles that. It's the right to housing with special service for adults or other specially adapted housing.
So this covers things like group homes and assisted living.
Exactly. And in some cases, they might even have the right to a specially adapted home provided by the municipality.
Wow, that's impressive. Okay, last but not least, the 10th, right? What's that one all about?
The 10th right is called daily activities, and it's specifically for adults of working age who aren't employed or in school.
So helping them stay engaged and active.
Precisely. It could be anything from rehab to vocational training to creative pursuits.
Or even social activities.
The key is it's tailored to the individual's needs and interests.
Sounds like the LSS really goes above and beyond just meeting basic needs.
It aims to help people live truly fulfilling lives.
But are these daily activities available to everyone receiving LSS support?
Another good question. Actually, the right to daily activities is specifically for individuals who fall under what we call person categories 1 and 2 of the LSS.
Person categories. Can you remind us who those are again?
Of course, person category 1 includes people with intellectual disabilities, autism spectrum disorders, and similar conditions.
Okay.
And person category 2 covers those with significant cognitive impairments due to those specific types of brain injuries we discussed earlier.
The ones from violence or physical illness in adulthood, right?
Exactly. So it's not just about the disability itself, but also the context surrounding it.
The LSS seems to be very nuanced and tailored to individual needs.
You're right. It's quite a complex system, but thoughtfully designed. Now I know what you're thinking. All of this must come at a hefty price tag, right?
Yeah, I was just about to ask about that. All this support can't be free, can it?
Well, let's talk about the financial side of the LSS next. You might be surprised by how Sweden manages the cost of these services. So when it comes to the cost, you might be surprised to hear this: most services under the LSS are actually free.
Free? As in no cost at all for those receiving the services.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing there are some exceptions.
You're right, there are a few. Remember, assistance compensation. If you're receiving that, you're asked to contribute a reasonable amount towards your assistance.
So it's not entirely free, but it's about shared responsibility.
Right?
Right. Contributing when you can.
Exactly. It's about striking a balance. Now, what about housing? Does that fall under the free umbrella too?
That's what I was wondering.
For adults living in housing with special services, there are fees for things like accommodation, leisure activities, and cultural activities.
So it's not about profit, but more about keeping those services running smoothly.
Exactly. Ensuring sustainability. Are there any other costs people should know about?
I should do.
Yes, one more. Parents of children under 18 who are living in foster care or specialized housing contribute too.
Okay. Makes sense. So they help cover things like clothing and activities.
Right, necessities and things like that. Again, it's about families sharing the responsibility when they can.
It seems like the LSS really tries to balance support with individual contribution.
Absolutely. It's not about creating dependency, but about partnership. But this emphasis on individual contribution doesn't overshadow the core value of the LSS: choice and control.
Right. We talked about that earlier with personal assistance, where people get to pick their own helpers.
Exactly. Choice and control are woven into the entire fabric of the LSS.
So it's not just about being told what you need. You have a say in shaping your own support system.
That's the idea. One of the key ways this plays out is through the individual plan.
An individual plan. What's that?
It's basically a document that's created together by the person receiving support and the authorities.
So it's a collaboration.
Absolutely. It outlines the person's goals, needs, and the services they'll be getting.
That's a great way to ensure their voice is heard and their preferences are respected.
Exactly. It's about empowering people to be active participants, not passive recipients.
Love that. It really shifts the power dynamic in a positive way. But what happens if something goes wrong? How does the LSS ensure accountability?
That's where the Lex Era provision comes in. It's all about safeguarding the quality of care and creating transparency.
Lex Sarah. Interesting name. What makes it so special?
Well, it basically requires everyone involved in providing LSS services to actively contribute to maintaining high standards of care.
So staff, contractors, everyone.
Everyone. It's about fostering a culture where everyone feels responsible for the well-being of those receiving support.
So setting a high bar from the get-go. But what if someone, say, a staff member sees a problem? How does Lex Sarah address that?
Lexera mandates that anyone who becomes aware of a deficiency, a risk, or violation of someone's rights reports it immediately.
So there's a clear reporting process. What happens next?
The report goes straight to the person in charge of that service. That person has to address the issue right away. And if it's serious, they have to report it to a higher authority, the supervisory authority.
Okay, so multiple layers of accountability. It's not just about speaking up, it's about taking action to fix things and protect people.
Exactly. Lexera ensures the system is constantly being monitored and improved. It creates a safety net and holds people accountable.
We've covered a lot of ground here, from the philosophy to the nuts and bolts of costs and accountability. The LSS is clearly designed to create a truly supportive and empowering environment.
You're right. We've explored the who, the why, and the how of the LSS, its impact, and the mechanisms that make it work. But there's one more who we need to talk about.
Oh.
The who on the administrative side. Who's actually responsible for making sure all of this works in practice?
The people behind the scenes. Who are they?
Well, there are two main players when it comes to actually making the LSS happen, the county councils and the municipalities.
So kind of a two-pronged approach.
Yeah.
How does that work? Who does what?
Typically, the county councils handle those advice and other personal support services. You remember all those specialists?
Yeah, like the counselors and therapists.
Exactly, providing that extra layer of support. And then the municipalities take care of all the other services laid out by the LSS.
So things like the personal assistance companion services, housing support, all that falls under the municipalities.
That's right. But it's not always a strict division.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's some flexibility built in. County councils and municipalities can actually decide to switch things up a bit.
Based on what works best for their area.
Exactly. They adapt to local needs and resources. Some municipalities have even taken on those advice and support services themselves.
Interesting. So it's about finding the best fit for each community. But with so many different groups involved, how do you guarantee consistency and quality?
Good question. That's where the National Board of Health and Welfare steps in.
They're the ones making sure everyone's playing by the rules.
Exactly. They're the guardians of the LSS, ensuring it's implemented fairly and effectively across all of Sweden.
So what kind of power do they actually have?
They can issue regulations and guidelines related to the LSS. They set the ground rules to ensure a level playing field and consistent standards nationwide.
So they provide clarity and direction. But it's more than just setting the rules, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The National Board also plays a big role in monitoring, supporting, and evaluating the LSS in action. They're always looking for ways to improve the system and make it even better.
Keeping things up to date. So how do they go about gathering all that information for evaluation?
They're pretty proactive. They're not afraid to initiate changes when they need to. They share best practices, conduct inspections of both municipal and private organizations providing LSS services. They really keep a close eye on things.
Wow, so they're actively involved in making sure the LSS is living up to its potential. What happens if they find problems during those inspections?
They don't just sit back and observe. They work to make sure any issues are addressed quickly and effectively.
So they have some teeth.
They do. And they also play a key role in sharing what they learn from those inspections, fostering a culture of learning and improvement across the whole system.
It's amazing how much thought has gone into creating a system that's not only comprehensive, but also accountable. It's clear there's a real commitment to continuous improvement.
I agree. The LSS is a true testament to Sweden's dedication to social inclusion and the rights of individuals with disabilities. It's something other countries can definitely learn from.
And adapt to their own contexts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? Exploring the who, the why, and the how of the LSS.
We've seen how it empowers individuals, gives them choices, and ensures accountability. It's not just about providing support, it's about creating a society where everyone can thrive.
That's the ultimate goal, and I think it leaves us with a really interesting question to think about.
What's that?
How might a system like this influence attitudes towards disability as a whole? How might it shift our perspectives and create a more inclusive world?
That's a great question. Something to ponder for sure. And if this has sparked your curiosity, I encourage you to dive deeper. The full text of the LSS is available online, and there's a ton of information out there for those who want to explore further.
It's definitely a topic worth exploring.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Sweden's LSS. We hope you've learned something new and maybe even feel inspired to learn more. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.